Imagine the might of Rome, an empire that spanned continents, forged in fire and ambition. Its legions marched from the misty shores of Britain to the scorching sands of Mesopotamia. But as centuries passed, this colossal power began to crumble from within, and in its twilight years, a strange and telling phenomenon emerged. Children, some barely teenagers, were crowned emperors, masters of the known world. How did this happen? How did boys come to hold the fate of millions in their hands? Beats. This is the story of the child emperors, whose reigns were not just footnotes in history, but dire symptoms of a civilization in its death throes. Our story begins in a year of absolute chaos, 238 AD, the year of the six emperors. The Roman Empire was tearing itself apart. Emperors rose and fell in a matter of weeks, victims of assassination and civil war. Out of this bloodshed, a new hope emerged, or so it seemed. The people of Rome, weary of the endless violence, demanded a ruler from a familiar line. Their choice was a 13-year-old boy named Gordian III. Can you imagine? At an age when most are just beginning to understand the world, Gordian was handed the reins of the most powerful empire on earth. Of course, a boy couldn't rule alone. He was guided by a council of seasoned advisors, most notably the brilliant Praetorian prefect, Timesitheus, who also became his father-in-law. Under their guidance, Gordian's early reign was surprisingly stable. The administration was reformed, and a sense of order was restored. The young emperor even led his legions east to confront a formidable new enemy, the Sassanid Empire in Persia. The campaign started successfully. The Romans won a major victory at the Battle of Racina, pushing the Sassanids back across the Euphrates. Gordian seemed poised to become a great military emperor, a new Alexander. But then, tragedy struck. Timesitheus, the wise counsel and architect of their success, died suddenly from illness. He was replaced by a man named Philip the Arab, an ambitious soldier with his own designs on power. Soon after, the tide of the war turned. The Roman army suffered a defeat, and during the retreat, the young Emperor Gordian died. He was just 19. The circumstances of his death are shrouded in mystery. Was he killed in battle, a hero's end for a boy emperor? Or was he murdered by the very man who would succeed him, Philip the Arab, in a classic Roman betrayal? We may never know for sure, but Gordian's short, dramatic life was a perfect prelude to the instability that would define the rest of the 3rd century. His reign showed that even a child could sit on the throne as long as the right people were pulling the strings. But it also proved that in Rome, no one's life was safe, least of all the emperors. Just a few decades earlier, another boy took the throne. One whose reign would go down as one of the most bizarre and scandalous in Roman history. His name was Elagabalus, born in Syria. He was not a soldier or a senator, but a hereditary high priest of the sun god Elagobel. At the age of 14, thanks to the machinations of his powerful grandmother, Julia Maesa, the legions in the east declared him emperor. He marched on Rome, not just as a ruler, but as a living god. Rome had seen strange emperors before, but nothing could have prepared them for Elagabalus. He brought his foreign god with him and declared Elagabal the supreme deity of the Roman pantheon, even above Jupiter. He built a magnificent temple for his god on the Palatine Hill and forced the city's most respected senators to participate in bizarre rituals. He even symbolically married his god to the Roman goddesses Minerva and Juno. For the traditional Roman elite, this was blasphemy. But the religious controversy was only the beginning. Elagabalus's personal life was a source of constant scandal. Ancient sources, though likely exaggerated by his enemies, paint a picture of extreme decadence and sexual excess. He married and divorced 5 women in 4 years, including a Vestal Virgin, a sacrilege of the highest order. He was said to wear makeup and wigs, offer himself as a prostitute in the palace, and elevate his lovers, like his chariot driver Heracles, to positions of incredible power. He replaced competent officials with dancers, actors, and barbers, based not on merit, but on his personal whims. The city was in an uproar. His behavior wasn't just eccentric, it was a direct assault on every Roman value of masculinity, piety, and public duty. The people who put him in power, his own grandmother and aunt, realized they had made a terrible mistake. They saw that his excesses were threatening to bring down the entire dynasty. So, they hatched a new plan. They convinced Elagabalus to adopt his young cousin, Alexander Severus, as his heir. Alexander was the complete opposite, modest, traditional, and well-liked. As Alexander's popularity grew, Elagabalus grew jealous and paranoid. C. Tried to have his cousin assassinated, but his protectors, the Praetorian Guard, had finally had enough. In the year 222, after just 4 years on the throne, the Praetorian Guard revolted. They cornered the 18-year-old emperor and his mother in a latrine, where they were hiding. They were brutally murdered, their bodies dragged through the streets of Rome, and finally tossed into the Tiber River. The Senate then officially erased him from history, a process known as damnatio memoria. His name was struck from all public records and monuments. It was as if he never existed. Elagabalus's reign was a shocking spectacle, a sign that the very fabric of Roman identity was fraying, and that the throne could fall into the hands of anyone, no matter how unfit to rule. 2.5 centuries later, the empire that Elagabalus had shocked was a shadow of its former self. The Western Roman Empire was crumbling. Its provinces had been lost to barbarian invasions, its economy was in ruins, and its armies were mostly composed of Germanic mercenaries. Spur. The emperor was no longer a powerful autocrat in Rome, but a figurehead, often hiding behind the fortified walls of Ravenna. It is here, in this dying world, that we meet our final child emperor, the one whose name has become synonymous with the end of Rome itself, Romulus Augustulus. His name was a cruel joke of history. He bore the name of Romulus, the mythical founder of Rome, and Augustulus, a diminutive of Augustus, its first and greatest emperor. Little Augustus, who was perhaps only 10 years old when his father, a powerful Roman general named Orestes, staged a coup and placed his own son on the imperial throne in 475 AD. Romulus Augustulus was an emperor in name only. He was a pawn, a puppet in his father's game of power. He held no authority, made no decisions, and likely spent his brief reign playing in the halls of the palace in Ravenna, while the world outside fell apart. His father, Orestes, was the real ruler, but his power was fragile. It depended entirely on the loyalty of his barbarian army. These soldiers, who had fought for Rome for generations, now demanded a permanent home. They asked Orestes for a third of the land in Italy to settle on. Orestes refused. It was a fatal mistake. The army mutinied, and they found a new leader in one of their own, a Germanic chieftain named Odoacer. Odoacer marched on Orestes, captured, and executed him. He then walked into Ravenna and faced the boy emperor, Romulus Augustulus. But there was no dramatic battle, no last stand. Odoacer saw no threat in the child. He simply deposed him in a final, anticlimactic act. Romulus Augustulus was forced to abdicate the throne in 476 AD. Odoacer, practical and uninterested in the charade of a puppet emperor, did not kill the boy. Instead, he sent him into a comfortable retirement in a villa near Naples, granting him a pension for life. And just like that, it was over. Odoacer did not proclaim himself emperor. He sent the imperial regalia, the diadem and purple robe, to the Eastern Roman Emperor in Constantinople, with a message stating that one emperor was enough for the world. The year for 76 AD is the date traditionally used to mark the fall of the Western Roman Empire. The end came not with a bang, but with a whimper, the quiet dismissal of a boy who never truly ruled. The stories of Gordian, Elagabalus, and Romulus Augustulus are more than just historical curiosities. They are powerful symbols of Rome's long and painful decline. In the empire's prime, the throne was a prize won through military genius, political skill, and ruthless ambition. But by the end, it had become a poisoned chalice, an inheritance passed down to children who were too young to understand its weight or its dangers. Their reigns reveal an empire where institutions had failed, where personal loyalty replaced civic duty, and where power was a commodity to be bought and sold by ambitious generals and scheming courtiers. The child emperors did not cause the fall of Rome, but their very existence on the throne was the clearest sign that the greatest empire the world had ever known was already gone. 4. When we look at the ruins of Rome today, we see not just the fall of buildings, but the collapse of an idea that died long before. The last emperor was quietly sent away to live out his days as a private citizen. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the final, turbulent years of the Roman Empire. If you found this story fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. And let me know in the comments, which of these boy emperor stories did you find the most compelling? Thanks for watching.